Hello there! Welcome to Tarah and Kids Vlog. So for today's content, I am going to share to you some of my practices being a mother teacher of my children. At first, I want them to get familiarized with developing communication skills at home. The first thing or the first technique that I use is getting them familiarized what is sentence, because when we communicate, we are using a lot of sentences. Let us define what is sentences. Let your child or let your children knows or keep in their mind the definition of sentence. That is a group of words that expresses a complete thoughts or ideas. In order for that sentence to be complete, it has to be with the subject and the predicate. Now let's focus on the subject thing. So guys, we do have 8 parts of speech. That 8 parts of speech is also very important for us or for them to get familiarized, because when they write sentences, they are using words that comes from the 8 parts of speech. So normally, or our sentence or our subject of the sentence is usually from our nouns and pronouns. Because remember the definition of nouns: a name of person, place, things, animals, and events. So given those, we do have like millions of subjects that we can use from noun. First part of speech, which is noun. There are names that are too long. If your child is having a difficulty using that complicated or long words for their subject, that's where we introduce them the pronoun, the use of pronoun. Remember, pronoun is a replacer of a noun. So let's say, for example, Leonardo da Vinci is very long names. Instead of using that in a sentence, you can just say he. He is for man, boy, or male. For female, we can just let them use, for female names, we can just let them use the pronoun she. Now, if you're gonna combine 2 names, instead of using that too long 2 names, you can just let them use the pronoun they. They is for plural noun or plural subject. Now, for animals or object, if it is only singular, guys, let them use it or it. It, that is for singular objects or animals, places, things like that. As we go on, you'll be able to, I just want you to familiarize on the use of noun and pronouns. For more information about that, you can just go to Google or search about nouns and pronouns so that your children get familiarized on those words. Now, after identifying the subject or the words that we can use for their subject, it's time for you to introduce them now on the predicate. So predicate, you can just only focus on one part of speech, which is the verb, an action word. Now, using the verb, guys, you have to let your kids understand that if they are going to use verbs, they can either use regular or irregular verbs. Now, let's summarize it. When using regular verbs, that's where we apply the past tense or present tense. So regular verb, let's say for example, bake. So let's say for example, my mother bakes a cake. In this scenario, we use the bakes because our subject is singular, which is mother. There you go, guys. Before we proceed on the type of verbs, you have to let your kids understand the simple rule for grammar. That is, when the subject is singular, the verb must be used singular forms or S form of the verb. For example, my mother bakes me a cake. We use bakes, the S form of the verb, because of the mother, which is singular subject. However, when you say the children play in the playground, we do not use base. We use base form. Base form means verb without S. So play, we use play because of the plural subject, children. So there you go. You have to let your kids familiarize that as well. Now, going back on the verb as the predicate of the sentence, you have to let your kids familiarize the difference between the regular verb and the irregular verb. Now, what is regular verb? So normally, when we construct sentences, you have to consider the tenses as well. So consider if that sentence is for present tense, past tense, and future tense. Now, applying the regular verb, guys, for regular verb, those are the verbs that when forming the past tense form of the verb, you just simply add D or ED. For example, my mother bakes me a cake. So that's basically present tense because of the word bakes. However, when you say my mother baked a cake yesterday, using the time expression yesterday, it only emphasizes that the verb happens in the past. Therefore, you should use past tense form. Regular verbs, again, when forming the past tense form, you should simply add D or ED. So bake, since bake is B-A-K-E, you just need to simply add D. So those verb that ends with E, simply add D. Alright guys? So there, let's not prolong that. I just want you to realize the difference. Now, applying the irregular verbs, these are the verbs that forming the past tense form, you need to change the spelling. For example, I eat mango. Eat, E-A-T for the present tense. But when you say, we ate mango last week, so that eat becomes A-T-E. Please search on the Google more examples about irregular verbs, and it will give you a lot of examples from present tense to past tense, and you change the spelling. We can also use the linking verb, guys. So if you don't want to use regular and irregular verbs, we can also use is, are, and am. Am is for the pronoun I, subject I, and then is for the singular subject, like for example, she is dancing. Are is for plural, we are dancing. So after understanding those points, guys, now it's time for you to really complete your sentences. Now, how do we complete our sentences? If you know the definition of the sentence, if you know the subject and predicate, if you know how to use them in your sentences, make sure that you also know how to end with the proper punctuations. That is when we use period for declarative and imperative sentence when we're just narrating something, and we use question mark if we are asking questions, and exclamatory point when we are expressing a strong feelings sentences. So yeah, that's all for today, guys. I just want you to search more examples on Google. Thank you so much for watching.